welcome to the 8-Bit Music Chicken Gaming Show. In this episode, we will be talking about the evolution of video game controllers. Now, in the past, actually on the first ever episode of the 8-Bit Music Chicken Gaming Show, I did an episode of my top 5 video game controllers, but they were which ones I liked the most. We're going to do a bit of history. We're going to start from the beginning of gaming consoles and go all the way up to now, talking about the key points where something new was introduced to the controllers that changed the game. So, let's go. To start us off, let's talk about what the first generation of gaming consoles did to us. Now, this was before we had cartridges to go into the consoles. Most of it was just the games that were built in, primarily Pong consoles. Pong was a classic game, and it still is now. And with these consoles that had Pong built in, you didn't really need more than this. This is the Binatone TV Master Mark 6 controller. The console was released in 1977, and it's just an example of one of the many Pong consoles like this. All it is basically is a rectangle with a paddle controller to move your paddle on the screen to hit the ball. So it's very simplistic, but a very important part of the history of the gaming controls. Now, in the second generation of consoles, we moved towards cartridges, so we have many more kinds of games on the console. So we needed something a bit more versatile, something that would fit these many games. And these were mainly arcade games that were ported to the system, and at the time it was fantastic to have them at the home. So to do this job, we had the Atari 2600 controller, just with a joystick like in the arcades, well, similar at least, and a button. Having said that though, the paddle controllers were on the Atari 2600 too, used as games with Breakout and even Pong, as I've already stated. Now in the third generation of gaming, the kind of games we played on consoles changed again. They moved away from the arcade style to a certain extent and went to big experiences, like that went over long periods of time. And an example of this is the Nintendo Entertainment System, released in 1985, and this introduced the D-pad, something we take for granted with games today, and it's been included in pretty much every system since. It's just so convenient having a tiny pad to move your character or whatnot, and no wonder it sticked around. Although there are some things that a joystick can do that a D-pad just can't. In the fourth generation of gaming consoles, Nintendo struck again to change the game. In 1990, the Super Nintendo was released, and alongside it, their controller. That was the first controller ever to have shoulder buttons. Now, this has been on every console since, even more shoulder buttons in fact, but this was the first one to do it. As the games got more complex, they needed more buttons, and this was a perfect and ingenious way of doing it, having shoulder buttons on top. Another perfect idea from Nintendo. In the fifth generation of consoles, video games started to move away from 2D and towards 3D games, so they needed a more fitting control. And in 1996, Nintendo released the Nintendo 64, and on its controller, the first thumbstick. I know this thumbstick is a bit broken, but I'm hoping to get a new controller soon. And admittedly, this isn't the best thumbstick ever, it's rather small, but it's a great part of video game history, and there have been many variations of this thing up until today, and I don't think they're going away anytime soon. Now, let's skip the sixth generation of gaming, because in my opinion there wasn't really a key point there in the controls. So let's go straight ahead to the seventh. And we're going away from the traditional kind of controls now, going into motion controls with the Wii. In 2006, Nintendo released this system, and the motion controls were just amazing at the time. Just so you can interact with the game, moving your arms. It may not seem much now, but back then it was amazing, and it's still awesome now. I still love using motion controls. They haven't replaced regular controllers in the grand scheme of things, but I find it a fun alternative to have it on the side. Now we're on to this generation of gaming consoles, and many people should say I shouldn't put the controller I'm about to on here, but I'm putting it on here whether you love the controller or hate it. It's all down to opinion basically, but it just shows how much the controllers have changed from just one paddle and then a joystick to a button to this, the Wii U gamepad with a screen slapped in the middle of it. Now this just shows how complex things have gotten, but this is another, in my opinion, awesome and innovative thing Nintendo has done. This screen thing actually comes in really handy for the games, and many people I don't think will copy it, because some people actually really hate this thing, but I think it's awesome. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Tell me what you thought of it in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye.